Earl Bennett sat on the creaky porch of his weathered farmhouse, staring at the vast fields stretching before him. The drought had ravaged his once thriving crops, leaving his farm barren. Bills piled up faster than he could open them, and the bank's final notice with bold red letters haunted him every day. The message was clear: if he didn't pay off the loan soon, the land passed down through generations would be auctioned off. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe for more true stories like this. Earl wasn't just a farmer, he was the son and grandson of farmers. Losing the farm was like losing his identity. His wife, Sarah, worked double shifts at the diner just to help keep them afloat, but the medical bills and overdue debts were drowning them. He felt trapped. Then, one day at the diner, Earl overheard something that would change everything. It was an ordinary morning at the diner, Earl nursing a coffee he couldn't afford. A local truck driver was boasting about his delivery route. "They've got so much cash in that little bank downtown," the man said, laughing as he bit into a slice of pie. "They must be stockpiling it for a big transfer or something." Millions. Earl's ears perked up. His mind began to race. Millions, the exact amount he needed to save his farm, pay off the debts, and secure Sarah's medical care. It wasn't just a dream. It was a plan. The seed had been planted in Earl's mind. The bank was just a few hundred yards away from his property, nestled between the edge of his land and the feed store. It wasn't much to look at, a small, unassuming brick building with a single vault. The thought felt absurd at first, but desperation has a way of clouding judgment. Earl wasn't a criminal. He'd never even stolen a pack of gum. But as the days passed, and the bank's letters grew more threatening, the thought lingered, taking root deeper with each passing day. Earl wasn't a man of impulse. He was a problem solver. Years spent on the farm taught him how to navigate difficult terrain, dig irrigation channels, and shore up unstable soil. His knowledge of the land was his greatest asset, and now, it would be his ticket to survival. Late one evening, after hours of work in the fields, Earl dug out a stack of old blueprints he'd found years ago at the town library. His heart raced as he traced the lines, mapping out the distance from his barn to the bank's vault. It wasn't far, barely 300 yards. A tunnel could be dug. Earl's plan began to take shape. He knew that the barn had been unused for years, and its decaying roof and boarded-up windows made it the perfect hideout for his operation. No one would think twice if they saw him working there. It was his land, after all. He started small, buying tools from a local hardware store. Shovels, pickaxes, and wooden planks to stabilize the tunnel walls. For the heavier work, Earl knew he would need something more, an industrial drill. He found one at a hardware store an hour away, paying in cash to avoid suspicion. Every night, after Sarah had gone to bed, Earl would slip out to the barn. Hidden beneath hay and old tools, he dug into the earth. The soil was loose and cooperative, but the work was grueling. The tunnel was slow going, and the physical toll was immense. His hands were blistered, his back ached, and his legs felt like lead. But the thought of losing everything, of letting his family down, kept him going. Before we move on, kindly like and subscribe for more video like this. As the weeks turned into months, the work became more taxing, and the risks grew. Earl kept the tunnel a secret, even from Sarah. She had started noticing his exhaustion, but he brushed it off with excuses about preparing the fields for the next planting season. At night, the barn became his sanctuary, but also a prison. He couldn't share his burden with anyone. Sarah would never understand. If the plan failed, he couldn't bear to have her carry the guilt. One night, as Earl was dumping a wheelbarrow full of dirt near the back of the property, he saw headlights approaching. His heart skipped a beat. Was it the sheriff? Or one of his neighbors? The truck slowed, but then, mercifully, continued past his property. Earl quickly covered the pile with a top, breathing a sigh of relief. It was a close call, but it reminded him just how razor-thin his margin for error was. Months passed, and Earl's tunnel steadily took shape. The soil, once cooperative, now presented challenges, from waterlogged sections to collapsed walls. Earl reinforced the tunnel with wooden beams and planks, using his knowledge of irrigation systems to ensure the passage remained secure. Each foot of progress felt like a small victory. The closer he got to the vault, the more Earl's anticipation grew. Earl had invested heavily in the tools necessary for the job. One evening, after hours of practice on an old slab of concrete behind the barn, he felt ready. His modified jackhammer, designed to minimize noise, was ready for the final push. But Earl was no fool. He knew every detail had to be perfect. There could be no mistakes. The night of the heist arrived, the air thick with anticipation. Earl stood at the entrance to the tunnel, his heart pounding in his chest. The tools he had so carefully prepared, the jackhammer, the reinforced bags, the battery-powered lantern, were all laid out before him like a musician's instruments before a symphony. Everything had to go perfectly. Earl entered the tunnel, the damp earth closing in around him. The flickering light of his lantern cast long, eerie shadows as he made his way toward the vault. The air was heavy with tension, each step taking him closer to what he had only dared to dream of. At last, Earl reached the foundation of the bank. His heart raced as he positioned the jackhammer and began to work. The sound of the drill felt deafening in the narrow tunnel, but Earl pressed on, the vibrations running through his arms. His body was sore from months of digging, but he was too close to stop now. Finally, the jackhammer pierced the concrete. Earl paused, listening for any sign that the noise had been detected. There was nothing. The world above him remained blissfully unaware of the intrusion. Earl entered the vault with a mixture of awe and fear. The stacks of cash before him were a sight to behold, more money than he had ever imagined in his life. It was more than just a sum, it was the answer to everything. He worked quickly, methodically filling his bags with the larger denominations. He couldn't take it all, but what he did take would be enough to save the farm and secure Sarah's health. But as he reached for another stack, his hand brushed against something solid, a small surveillance camera. Earl froze. The camera wasn't active, but it was there, a silent witness to his crime. For a moment, he hesitated, but the thought of losing it all spurred him into action. He stuffed his bags, sealed the vault behind him, and began his journey back to the barn. The journey back through the tunnel felt like a lifetime. Every sound seemed amplified in the confined space. The weight of the bags made each step painfully slow. But Earl pressed on, the thought of his farm and family driving him forward. Once he emerged from the tunnel, he collapsed. Victory, but at what cost? The bags of cash sat before him, a reminder of everything he stood to lose. The next morning, the robbery was discovered. The town buzzed with speculation. How had someone breached the vault without triggering alarms? The FBI soon arrived, combing through the scene, but they found nothing, no evidence. That is, until they found the tunnel. As the investigation unfolded, Earl kept his head down, going about his daily life as if nothing had happened. But he knew that the walls were closing in. One mistake, and everything would unravel. The FBI eventually tracked him down. The money trail led straight to Earl's new purchases. A new truck, paid in cash, tipped them off. When they raided his farm, they found the cash hidden in the barn. Earl was arrested in front of Sarah, his world crashing down. But as he was led away, he held his head high. He had done what he needed to survive. Earl's story is one of desperation, ingenuity, and the price of survival. Do you think Earl deserves sympathy or punishment? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more shocking true crime stories.